We're only 1,000 subscribers away from unlocking a secret reward. Be the reason it happens faster. At exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, my card was declined at the grocery store checkout, right in front of a line of people. My face went hot with embarrassment. I stepped aside, called my father with shaking hands, expecting an explanation. What I got instead was a sentence that would change my life forever. "I canceled all your cards," he said, calm as if he were talking about the weather. "You're trained to follow orders, not manage money." I stood there in silence. No anger in my voice. No tears. Just silence. Because in that one moment, I understood something my father never expected me to understand. I was done being controlled. 3 hours later, his phone would ring 32 times. And by the end of that day, he would learn exactly who he had been underestimating his entire life. My name is Captain Sarah Cooper. I serve in the United States Army. And this is the story of the day my father tried to strip away my independence, and the day I took it all back. I was before this day. To understand why this moment broke something in me, you need to understand my life before it. I grew up the only daughter in a house run by strict rules. My father, a retired officer himself, believed that discipline meant control. He decided what I wore, what I studied, and eventually who I would become. When I told him I wanted to join the army, he laughed. He said I wasn't strong enough. He said a daughter's place was to be guided, not to give orders. I joined anyway. I trained harder than anyone in my platoon. I earned my rank the hard way, through years of sacrifice, sweat, and sleepless nights. I became an officer. I led soldiers. Men and women trusted me with their lives on deployment. But at home, none of that mattered. To my father, I was still his little girl who needed permission. He kept his name on my old bank account for emergencies, a habit from when I was 18 that I never fully closed out. I trusted him. I never imagined he would use that access as a weapon. That morning, standing at the checkout counter with my card declined and a line of strangers watching, I finally saw the truth. My father didn't see me as an officer. He saw me as someone he still owned. I stepped outside the store, my hands trembling not from fear, but from a rage I had never let myself feel before. I dialed his number. "Dad, my card was declined." "What happened?" His voice was flat, almost proud. "I canceled all your cards, Sarah. You're trained to follow orders, not manage money. I'm doing this for your own good." For your own good. Those 4 words hit harder than any insult could. This was a man who had never once managed a battlefield decision, telling a decorated army officer that she couldn't be trusted with her own finances. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I said one sentence. "Understood." And I hung up. He probably smiled on the other end, thinking he had won. Thinking his daughter would come running home, apologizing, asking to be forgiven for whatever imaginary mistake justified this punishment. He had no idea that in the military, understood doesn't mean surrender. It means the mission has just begun. I got back in my car. I didn't drive home. I drove straight to the bank. Inside the bank, I asked to speak with a manager. I explained the situation calmly, professionally, the same way I would brief a commanding officer. My father was a joint account holder from years ago, an account I had simply never gotten around to separating. The manager pulled up the records. My eyes moved down the screen, and my calm nearly broke. Over the past year, small amounts had been quietly withdrawn from that shared account. Not stolen violently, not obvious enough to notice month to month, but steady, deliberate withdrawals. Enough to add up to almost a huge portion of my personal combat pay and savings. My father hadn't just canceled my cards that morning. He had been draining my account for months, believing I was too busy, too trusting, or too respectful to check. Asked for every document, every statement, every transaction history printed and provided in full. I opened a brand new account, entirely in my name, with military-grade security protocols. I removed his access completely. And then I began building my case. This wasn't about anger anymore. This was about the truth. And in the Army, we don't run from the truth. We secure it, document it, and use it. I turned my phone back on after leaving the bank 3 hours later. 32 missed calls. All from my father. The first few voicemails were confused. Sarah, why isn't your line connecting to the account? Call me back. By the 10th call, his tone had shifted. Sarah, something's wrong with the bank. I think there's an error. By the 20th, panic had crept into his voice. Sarah, I can't access the joint account. Where are you? And by the 32nd call, his voice cracked completely. Sarah, please call me. I don't understand what's happening. He didn't understand. Of course he didn't. He had spent years underestimating me, treating me like a child who needed her money watched and controlled. He never imagined that the daughter he dismissed as just following orders was capable of outmaneuvering him in a single afternoon using nothing but calm precision and legal paperwork. I let the phone sit in silence for one more hour before I finally called him back. Dad, I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. Not on the phone. In person. I drove to his house that evening. He opened the door, already talking, already trying to explain. Sarah, I was just trying to protect you. You don't understand how money works. You're always overseas. I held up the folder in my hand. Bank statements. Transaction records. Proof. I understand money perfectly, Dad, I said. I understand it well enough to see every withdrawal you made from my account over the past year. I understand it well enough to know exactly how much you took and when. His face went pale. The confidence drained out of him instantly. I was going to pay it back, he stammered. I just needed help covering some bills, and I knew you wouldn't notice. That's the problem, I said.
You didn't ask. You didn't tell me.
You decided on your own that because I follow orders in the army, I couldn't be trusted to manage my own life. You took control away from me without permission. That's not protection, Dad. That's betrayal. He had no answer. For the first time in my entire life, my father was speechless. I told him clearly what would happen next. I wasn't going to press legal charges against my own father, but I wasn't going to pretend nothing happened either. I told him the joint account was permanently closed. I told him every dollar he had taken would need to be repaid on a schedule I set, not one he chose. I told him he would never again have access to any part of my finances, my accounts, or my decisions without my direct, written permission. And then I told him something that mattered even more than the money. You spent my whole life treating me like I needed to be controlled to be safe, I said. But I've led soldiers into dangerous situations and brought them home. I've made life-or-death decisions under pressure you've never faced. You don't get to decide I can't handle a checking account. He tried to apologize, but the apology felt smaller than the years of control that came before it. Still, I let him speak. Because closure isn't about revenge. It's about finally being heard. In the weeks that followed, my father slowly began repaying what he had taken. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't easy for him to accept, but it was happening on my terms now, not his. More importantly, something shifted between us. For the first time, he started asking me questions instead of giving me orders. He asked about my missions, my responsibilities, the soldiers I led. He started, in small, quiet ways, to actually see me, not as the daughter who needed protecting, but as the officer who had been protecting others all along. I didn't need his approval anymore. I never really had. But watching him finally understand who I had become was its own kind of justice. Looking back now, that morning in the grocery store was one of the hardest moments of my life. But it was also the moment I stopped waiting for permission to be respected. Some people believe that love means control, that protecting someone means making decisions for them. But real respect means trusting the people you love to handle their own lives, especially when they've already proven, again and again, that they are capable. If someone in your life has ever tried to make you feel small, tried to convince you that you can't be trusted with your own choices, remember this. Calm, quiet strength will always outlast control. You don't need to shout to win. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply standing your ground, gathering the truth, and letting your actions speak louder than their doubts ever could. 32 missed calls taught my father something he should have known all along. His daughter was never someone to be managed. She was someone who had already learned to lead.